the women of Misr, they made fun of Zuleika. And they said, she goes after her slave. She's the wife of the minister, the treasury minister. Such high station she has. And, she goes after her slave. Anyway, so remember I told you, Zuleika arranged this meeting and she gave food to all the women, her friends in Misr of Egypt. And when they seen Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, they became mesmerized, they became intoxicated, they became lost in the love of Yusuf alayhi salam, his sheer beauty. Allah had given 3/4 of all beauty of humanity to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And they became crazy in this and they cut off their hands. You remember this waqiyah? And then afterwards they plotted with Zuleika. And they said, we will help you, we will assist you. Because she was only further enraged by this. She wanted Yusuf alayhi salam at all costs. And upon this, Sayyidina Yusuf asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she said to him, she made this clear. She said, if you don't engage in this, I will send you to prison. I'll have my husband send you to prison, the minister. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he did dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, he said, save me from their guile. Send me to prison, but just save me from them. So he said that Yusuf alayhi salam, he was sent to prison where the ulama say he spent a number of years. 7, 8, 9, there's different years. And there's different variations on this. But he spent a number of years in prison. While Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was in prison, there was 2 of the prisoners who were admitted that were amongst him. And the people of the prisons, they grew massive respect for Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, because they seen he was a man who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was very kind, he had a lot of taqwa, he treated all the people very well. He was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can imagine just sitting in the company of a prophet is extremely overwhelming. Extremely overwhelming. These days you sit with pious people of Allah, and it's overwhelming in their company. They have such a raw and an awe to them. But these are the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Can you imagine? So the people were extremely impressed with Sayyidina Yusuf, especially these 2 prisoners who were admitted with Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. These 2 prisoners, people began to know, and they became to learn that Sayyidina Yusuf was extremely intelligent. He was full of wisdom and knowledge. He was a prophet of Allah, no doubt. And eventually, the 2 prisoners, they reported a dream that they had had to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. One of them said to him, he said, I dreamt that I was walking with bread on my head and birds were eating from that bread. And he asked Sayyidina Yusuf, what does this mean? And the second person said, I dreamt that I was pressing grapes and making wine. I was pressing grapes and I was making wine. And Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam told the man, he said, you were carrying bread on your head and birds were eating from it. This means you will be crucified and birds will come and eat from your head. Because Sayyidina Yusuf, he was a prophet of Allah, he had the power to interpret dreams. This was one of his khas miracles. So he said, you will be crucified. And he said to the man who seen the pressing of grapes and making wine, he said, you will become a close person to the king and you will serve him wine. And you will serve him wine. And but the interesting thing to note here is, before Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam gave him this message, he said to them, he said, I will answer your question and I will tell you the interpretation of your dream before food comes. He said, before your food arrives, which used to come on a daily basis, routine, he said, before that arrives, I will give you your answer. But now, because they were engaged with him, they were listening to him, and he had their attention. Yusuf alayhi salam, what did he do with that time and attention? He said, first, let me tell you something. And he preached to them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He took that moment and he began to talk to them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He told them about Tawheed. Because the people of Misr, Egypt, although they accepted Allah as one of their gods, they also believed, they committed shirk. They were mushriks, they used to believe in many other gods. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he explained to them, he said, what's the point of all these gods when you can have one omnipotent Lord who is powerful over everything. And he began to explain to them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and coming and believing in His deen. He began to preach to them. What do we learn from this? We learn that saying that Yusuf alayhi salam, he didn't go in there and say, he didn't go into the prison and say, everybody listen to me, I want to tell you something. He chose the right time. He chose the right moment, and then he began to preach to you. You know, there's certain groups that I've seen. Whenever you see them, you know, there was a man, he said to me, outside Jummah prayer, and he see me, brother, brother, brother. He was very aggressive in his style. And he says, you probably know which group this is by me even imitating a little bit. You probably realize. And he said, brother, 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 listen to me. I said, SubhanAllah. You know, I come out of Jummah and I was very relaxed, feeling very spiritual, community, gathering with my Muslim brothers, and I walk out and he's talking to me like this. He goes, brother, brother, brother. He said, listen to me. He says, tell me 5 things you're doing for Islam. He goes, tell me 5 things you're doing for Islam. I put on the spot. I didn't know what to say to him. And you know what I said to him? Because I didn't like the style, so I said to him, tell me something. You tell me 5 things you're doing for Islam. Come on, you tell me 5 things you're doing for Islam. And he said, I'm doing this. I said, right, 1. And then he said, I read Salah. You read that for Allah, but I'll give you that. You're doing that for Islam. Number 2. I said, come on. Number 3. And he was struggling, he began to struggle. I said, amazing. I said, you are standing here asking me, putting me on the spot, asking me 5 things what I do for Islam when you haven't got an answer for the question yourself. I said, what kind of Islam is this? I said, listen brother, Islam isn't a bouquet of daggers that you take it out when you see so Allahu Akbar and tell me what you do for Islam and you're a sinner, and it's not a pessimistic religion. It's an optimistic religion. We're positive people. We're a community of love, ummah of love. We're a family. And we speak to each other like that. Who would like to be spoken to in that way? This wasn't the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This wasn't the way of the companions. This was the way of the pious people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I said to him, it's not like a bouquet of daggers. You stab somebody and you say, oh, listen, tell me 5 things you do for Islam. It's like a bouquet of flowers. You give it to somebody and they smell the scent and they say, SubhanAllah, can I have another? This is how the Islam was spread. It was spread with love. And that's how Islam reached the 4 corners of the earth. I said, this is the way we should do it. So you need to choose a time and a place to be able to preach something. Not always, every time, isn't always. For example,